My brothers and sisters, sometimes the pain you carry feels heavier than your own breath. Yet have you ever considered that this very pain might be a message from Allah's mercy? When your heart breaks and your world shakes, it is often Allah gently nudging you back to Him, reminding you of the one who never leaves. Your tears wash away layers of arrogance, ego and distraction, softening a heart that may have grown distant. Your hardship cleanses you from burdens you didn't know were poisoning your soul, removing what you were too attached to let go of yourself. Every moment you endure with patience elevates you, raising your rank in ways your deeds alone could never achieve. And sometimes that deep, unsettling ache is simply Allah redirecting your path, closing one door with force, so you will finally walk through the one that leads to your true purpose. So do not curse your pain, understand it. Do not question why Allah placed you in the fire. Recognize that He is refining you. Your struggle is not a sign of His anger. It may be the clearest sign of His love. Hold on. For the one who put you through it is the one who will pull you out stronger, purer, and closer to Him than ever before. Pain as a divine reminder is one of the most profound realities of a believer's spiritual journey. When a person goes through ease for too long, the heart becomes comfortable, sometimes even careless. Without realizing it, one begins to drift slowly, gently, away from the remembrance of Allah. The prayers become rushed, the Quran gathers dust, and the heart becomes occupied with the world more than with its creator. Then suddenly a difficulty arrives. It could be emotional, physical, financial, or spiritual. It shakes you in a way nothing else ever has. In that moment, you may feel overwhelmed and confused, but if you pause and look beyond the surface of the pain, you will find something astonishing. The hardship is not random, nor is it cruel. It is Allah reminding you, lovingly yet powerfully, that He wants you closer than you have ever been. Pain has a way of striking the heart where it is most unguarded. It does not ask permission before entering, it enters because Allah commanded it to. And when it arrives, it brings with it a message: return to your Lord. This message may be hidden beneath layers of emotion and tears, but it is there. You begin to make dua with sincerity you haven't felt in years. You find yourself whispering to Allah in the middle of the night, seeking comfort in Him when the world cannot offer any. This rediscovery of connection is not a coincidence, it is mercy. The pain awakens the soul from a slumber it did not even recognize it was in. It shakes your heart so that you remember the one who fashioned it. When life is comfortable, people often forget the sweetness of turning to Allah in desperation. But when pain hits, suddenly every dua becomes meaningful. Every sajda becomes longer. Every tear becomes a conversation with your Creator. The presence of difficulty pushes you to reconnect, to reflect, to realign your priorities. It humbles the ego and softens the heart. This transformation does not happen through ease. It blossoms through hardship. It is in those vulnerable moments that a believer truly discovers closeness to Allah. You start to remember that He is the one who listens, the one who heals, the one who never leaves, no matter how far you may have wandered. Another aspect of pain as a divine reminder is that it reveals the fragility of this world. When everything is going well, the dunya feels permanent, reliable, even comforting. But one moment of pain exposes its true nature, temporary, unreliable, and fleeting. Suddenly, what once seemed important becomes insignificant. This shift in perspective is itself an immense blessing. Allah uses pain to redirect your attention away from illusions and toward eternal realities. You begin to focus more on your relationship with Him, on your purpose, on your akhirah. You stop chasing things that were never meant to satisfy your heart and start seeking the one who created that heart. Pain also reminds you of your dependency. Human beings often assume they are in control of their plans, their future, their health, their relationships. But hardship shatters that illusion. It reminds you that control belongs only to Allah. And far from being a depressing realization, it becomes liberating. You finally understand that relying on people brings disappointment, relying on yourself brings exhaustion, but relying on Allah brings peace. This awakening is a sign of His mercy, because He does not want you to remain attached to what will eventually break. Instead, He uses pain to guide you to the one who never breaks, never changes, and never abandons. Pain also drives a believer toward introspection. It forces you to think deeply, what is Allah trying to teach me? What do I need to change? Where have I been neglectful? The lessons that emerge from such reflections are often transformative. You may discover patience you never knew you had. You may find gratitude in the smallest blessings. You may realize how much you had taken for granted. These insights are not punishments, they are gifts. Gifts wrapped in difficulty, yes, but gifts nonetheless. If life were always easy, these treasures of wisdom and growth would remain buried forever. And perhaps the most beautiful element of pain as a divine reminder is that it proves Allah is paying attention to you. He has not forgotten you, overlooked you, or abandoned you. He cares about your heart enough to shake it. He cares about your faith enough to revive it. He cares about your soul enough to call it back when it strays. The pain that He allows you to feel is evidence of His involvement in your life. A believer's suffering is never meaningless. It is a sign that Allah wants something better for you. Better faith, better strength, better closeness, better understanding. Even when the hardship feels unbearable, there is a hidden gentleness in it. Allah does not allow a challenge except for a reason rooted in His mercy. Sometimes you will see that wisdom quickly, and other times you will understand it only years later. But one truth remains constant. Pain is one of Allah's ways of calling you back, polishing your heart and reminding you of who you belong to. So when the pain comes, do not let it break you, let it bring you back. Let it soften you, let it reconnect you with the source of peace, and know that every heartbeat of struggle carries within it a message from your Lord. Come closer. Hardship softens the heart in ways comfort never can. When life flows smoothly, the heart often begins to harden without a person even realizing it. Comfort creates a kind of spiritual numbness, a quiet drifting away from the sensitivity that keeps a believer connected to Allah. A hardened heart becomes less reflective, less compassionate, less humble, and less conscious of its need for guidance. But when difficulty strikes, when pain enters, when loss shakes you, when fear unsettles you, the veil around the heart begins to tear. Suddenly, everything you once felt distant from becomes real again. You start to feel, think, and reflect at a deeper level. This shift is one of the most powerful mercies hidden inside hardship. Allah uses the pressure of trials to soften a heart that was slowly stiffening, the same way rain softens dry earth that could otherwise never grow anything. Pain has a remarkable way of making the heart tender. When you are hurt, you naturally become more aware of your own fragility, aware of the fragility of others, aware of how desperately you need Allah. A heart softened by hardship becomes more sincere. You begin to turn to Allah not out of routine, but out of desperation and love. Your prayers become fuller because you pray from a place of need. Your dua becomes deeper because it comes from a place of truth. Your reliance on Allah becomes stronger because you finally recognize that no one can carry your pain except Him. Hardship strips away pride, ego, and illusion, leaving the heart pure and receptive, ready to absorb guidance like dry soil, ready to drink rain. When the heart is soft, it remembers. It remembers the blessings it once ignored. It remembers the times Allah protected you, the times He helped you, the times He saved you from situations you didn't even know were dangerous. Hardship forces you to look back with clarity and forward with humility. You begin to see your blessings more vividly, the health you have, the people who care about you, the moments of peace, the small mercies that once seemed ordinary but now feel extraordinary. Gratitude becomes more sincere because it comes from a place of renewed awareness. A softened heart also becomes more compassionate. When someone experiences difficulty, they begin to understand the pain of others in a way they didn't before. A person who has cried deeply learns how to respond to the tears of others gently. A person who has felt loneliness becomes someone who reaches out to those who seem alone. A person who has felt the sting of loss becomes more empathetic to the grieving. Their words become kinder, their judgments become softer, and their interactions become more thoughtful. Hardship molds a believer into someone who carries mercy within themselves. They begin to embody the very compassion they hope to receive from Allah. Another powerful aspect of hardship softening the heart is that it pushes a person toward humility. When things are easy, it is easy to fall into the illusion that you are self-sufficient, that you can handle life on your own. Pain destroys that illusion and reminds you of your place as a servant of Allah. You are reminded that you are dependent, not weak, but dependent. And dependence on Allah is the greatest form of strength. This humility allows your heart to accept advice more readily, to apologize more sincerely, to forgive more easily, and to seek forgiveness more urgently. A humbled heart becomes a vessel that can finally hold wisdom, guidance, and truth. Hardship also reveals the cracks that were already there but hidden. Sometimes a person is on a path that is hurting them, spiritually, emotionally, or morally, but they cannot see it because their heart has become distracted. Difficulty hits, and suddenly the truth becomes clearer. you begin to see what you need to change, what you need to let go of, and what you need to return to. This clarity is one of the greatest gifts of a softened heart. It is the heart's way of responding to Allah's call, a call to purify, correct, and realign. The very pain that shakes you becomes the pain that wakes you. There is also a deep beauty in how hardship reconnects a believer with sincerity. When the heart softens, everything done for Allah becomes more real. You recite Quran not because you should, but because your soul craves its comfort. You pray not because it's an obligation, but because it is your sanctuary. You make dua not out of habit, but because your heart needs to speak. This sincerity is precious. It is worth more than gold. And Allah sometimes allows pain into your life to restore that sincerity, because a sincere heart is a heart He loves. Hardship softening the heart is also a preparation. Allah may be preparing you for something greater, something more meaningful, something more spiritually elevated. A soft heart is capable of carrying responsibility. It is capable of holding wisdom. It is capable of recognizing truth. It is capable of being guided. Your difficulty today may be preparing your heart for blessings tomorrow. Blessings that a hardened heart could never appreciate, maintain, or understand. Finally, a softened heart is a heart that returns to Allah. Hardship melts away layers of distraction and surfaces the raw truth. You need your Creator. In that realization lies the greatest mercy of all. To be brought back to Allah, to be made aware of Him again, to feel His presence in your pain, that is not loss but gain. It is not punishment but purification. It is not abandonment but divine love in disguise. Hardship breaks you open only so Allah can fill you with something better. And the first gift He gives is a softened heart. Trials purify and elevate in ways that ease never could. And understanding this truth transforms the way you experience hardship. When a believer goes through difficulty, it is not simply an event happening on the outside. Something far deeper is happening within the soul. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, uses trials to cleanse the heart, to remove burdens you did not even know you were carrying, and to raise you to spiritual ranks you could never reach through comfort alone. The pain you experience is not wasted. The tears you shed are not forgotten. Every moment of patience, every silent struggle, every breath taken with faith during hardship is recorded, cherished, and elevated by Allah. It is through trials that a believer is polished, like a gem placed under pressure to reveal its brilliance. When hardship strikes, it often exposes weaknesses that ease had kept hidden. Perhaps there were habits harming you, sins building up quietly, complacency settling into your heart. A smooth life sometimes makes you overlook these small cracks, but a trial brings them into the light. It forces you to confront what you need to change and what you need to let go of. Through this confrontation, Allah purifies you, not to break you, but to rebuild you stronger, cleaner, and more aware. The hardship acts like a spiritual cleansing, washing away the stains that accumulated over time. Many believers will meet Allah on the day of judgment with lighter hearts because of the trials they faced in this world. What felt like suffering was actually purification, removing the weight of sins that might have otherwise dragged them down. But purification is only one part of the wisdom behind trials. The other is elevation. Allah, in His mercy, grants levels in the hereafter that no amount of worship alone could achieve. A single moment of sincere patience can raise a believer higher than years of ease-filled devotion. This is because worship during comfort comes naturally. Worship during hardship comes from a place of struggle and sincerity. When you stand in prayer with a heavy heart, when you make dua through tears, when you continue to trust Allah even when nothing makes sense, that is faith in its purest form. It is in these moments that the believer rises, unseen by the world, but fully recognized by Allah. And Allah elevates the ones who hold on to Him in difficulty in ways that would astonish them if they only knew hardship also creates spiritual growth that comfort could never nurture. When everything is easy, the heart can become stagnant. But trials awaken the soul. They force you to reflect, to grow, to deepen your understanding of Allah. You begin to see that ease is not always good and pain is not always bad. You discover parts of yourself, strength, resilience, faith, that you would never have known existed without hardship. Pain becomes a teacher, guiding you toward maturity and wisdom. Through it, you learn patience, gratitude, humility, and reliance upon Allah. These qualities are not developed in times of ease. They are forged in the fires of trial. A trial also changes the way you see the world. It strips away illusions and anchors your heart in reality. You begin to recognize the temporary nature of worldly life, and you stop chasing things that cannot give true happiness. You realize that people will sometimes fail you, that plans may collapse, that life will shift unexpectedly. And in that realization, you learn to cling to the one who never fails, never changes, and never leaves. This shift in perspective is one of the most profound forms of elevation. It frees you from dependency on the world and directs you toward dependency on Allah. A believer who emerges from hardship with this realization has risen to a level of spiritual clarity that many seek but few achieve. Trials also soften the heart, making it more receptive to guidance. A person who has experienced suffering becomes more compassionate, more understanding, more connected to others. This emotional and spiritual softness is itself a form of elevation. It turns a believer into someone who not only seeks Allah, but also embodies the qualities he loves: mercy, humility, patience, and kindness. Hardship shapes you into someone better for others, not just for yourself. Moreover, trials teach you to appreciate blessings you once took for granted. When you lose something, even temporarily, you begin to recognize its value. This newfound gratitude enriches your relationship with Allah. A grateful believer is an elevated believer because gratitude itself is a form of worship. When hardship makes you more thankful, it has already achieved a part of its purpose. Another beautiful secret of trials is that they bring you closer to Allah in a way no lecture, no book, no reminder ever could. A person who turns to Allah during difficulty builds a closeness that becomes unshakable. You begin to talk to Him more, rely on Him more, trust Him more. This closeness is the greatest elevation of all. It is not measured in titles or achievements, but in the depth of your relationship with your Creator. And finally, trials are reminders of Allah's love. He purifies those He intends to elevate. He tests those whose hearts He wants to strengthen. He challenges those He wishes to bring near. A believer should never assume that hardship is a sign of divine anger. More often it is a sign of divine attention. Allah sees you, hears you, and chooses to refine you because He knows you are capable of rising through it. The believer who understands this walks through hardship, not with despair, but with dignity, knowing that every wound is a step toward purification, every tear a means of elevation, and every trial a bridge leading closer to Allah. Patience attracts divine closeness in ways that are both subtle and profound, and it is one of the most transformative qualities a believer can cultivate. When life is easy, patience may seem unnecessary because nothing presses upon the soul or tests the heart. But when hardship arrives, whether in the form of loss, fear, disappointment, or trials of the heart, the believer is faced with a choice to complain, to despair, or to hold firm in trust and reliance on Allah. It is in that moment of choice that the door to divine closeness opens. Patience is not merely enduring difficulty, it is enduring it with awareness, with faith, with a conscious turning toward Allah, and with the hope that every moment of struggle is being noticed by Him. The one who embraces patience does not simply survive hardship. They are spiritually elevated and draw nearer to the one who is the source of all comfort and guidance. When a person is patient in the face of difficulty, they are demonstrating complete reliance on Allah. It is an acknowledgement that human power is limited, and only Allah has control over the unseen and the outcomes of life. This reliance is a powerful form of worship. A believer who remains patient during hardship is effectively telling Allah, I trust you, I submit to your decree, and I know you will not abandon me. Such submission softens the heart and opens it to divine closeness. Allah promises in the Quran that He is with those who are patient, and indeed, the closer one becomes to patience, the closer one becomes to Allah Himself. Every moment of restrained complaint, every moment of quiet endurance, every silent prayer whispered during trials becomes a magnet, drawing the believer nearer to their Creator. Patience also transforms the perception of hardship itself. Without patience, trials can seem like punishment, injustice, or burden. But with patience, every difficulty becomes a means of purification, growth, and a reminder of Allah's mercy. The believer begins to see that the pain they are experiencing is not random, nor is it meant to destroy them. It is a tool of divine wisdom designed to shape, strengthen, and guide them. This realization changes the heart's orientation from resentment to trust. The closer the heart moves toward trust, the closer it moves toward Allah. Divine closeness is not achieved through ease alone. It is forged through the fires of patience and the steadfastness of faith. Another aspect of patience, attracting divine closeness, is the cultivation of awareness and mindfulness of Allah. When a person is patient, they are forced to pause, reflect, and turn inward. They begin to recognize their own limitations, their dependence on Allah, and the beauty of His wisdom in every decree. This reflection naturally deepens their connection to the Creator. A patient believer speaks less in complaint and more in supplication, listens more intently in reflection, and seeks guidance more earnestly in their moments of solitude. These acts of turning inward and upward are forms of closeness, and they are cultivated through the discipline of patience. In enduring life's trials with grace, the heart learns to align its desires with divine will, creating harmony between the believer and Allah. Patience also nurtures resilience and humility, which are essential elements of divine proximity. A heart that is patient in suffering recognizes that it is not in control, that it cannot dictate the flow of life, and that only Allah possesses ultimate authority. This humility is attractive to Allah, for it is a sign of true servitude. It demonstrates that the believer is willing to submit fully, even when circumstances are difficult. The resilience developed through patient endurance allows the believer to remain steadfast in worship, gratitude, and trust despite adversity. In this steadfastness lies spiritual elevation and a deepening of closeness to Allah, because the believer has proven that their faith is not superficial or conditional, but rooted in sincere devotion. Furthermore, patience in hardship teaches empathy and strengthens the heart's capacity for compassion. A person who endures difficulty with patience gains a profound understanding of the struggles of others. They begin to recognize the fragility of human life, the unpredictability of circumstances, and the universal need for divine guidance. This empathy connects the believer to the human experience and simultaneously draws them closer to Allah, who is the source of all mercy. By cultivating patience, the believer develops a heart that mirrors the compassion and care of the Creator, creating a spiritual resonance that brings them nearer to Him. Divine closeness through patience is also nurtured by the promise of reward. Allah has assured the believers that patience will not go unnoticed. Every hardship endured patiently is recorded and compensated. Every tear shed in trust is acknowledged, and every moment of quiet reliance upon Allah is treasured. The believer who embraces patience begins to live with this awareness, and it transforms their inner life. Their focus shifts from frustration and despair to hope and trust, from complaint to supplication, from resistance to surrender. In this state of heart and mind, the believer experiences a profound intimacy with Allah, a closeness that cannot be measured by worldly standards. Patience also teaches gratitude in disguise. When a believer patiently navigates trials, they often emerge with a deeper appreciation for life, health, relationships, and even small daily blessings. This sense of gratitude further strengthens the bond with Allah because it requires acknowledgement of His continuous care and provision. The patient believer sees divine wisdom in every event, creating a constant cycle of awareness, reflection, and closeness. Through patience, the believer becomes a living testament to the mercy, wisdom, and justice of Allah. Ultimately, patience is the bridge between the believer and divine intimacy. It is through the consistent practice of patience, remaining steadfast during trials, trusting Allah's wisdom, and aligning one's heart with His will, that closeness is achieved. The believer learns that suffering is not a mark of abandonment, but an opportunity for spiritual nearness. Every test becomes a lesson in reliance, humility, gratitude, and faith. Every moment of endurance becomes a step toward Allah's presence. Patience does not just help one survive difficulty, it transforms hardship into a vehicle for divine closeness, creating a heart that is softened, purified, elevated, and intimately connected with its Creator. Pain reveals who truly cares, and it is one of the most profound lessons that life teaches a believer. In moments of ease, it is easy to assume that relationships, friendships, and even familial bonds are steadfast and reliable. When everything is going smoothly, people are naturally drawn to your presence. They celebrate your victories, enjoy your company, and bask in the glow of your happiness. Yet, comfort does not truly test the strength or depth of these connections. It does not reveal loyalty, patience, or sacrifice. Hardship, on the other hand, strips away the superficial and exposes the core of human relationships. When life becomes difficult, when trials and struggles hit, the true nature of the people around you is revealed. Some will fade away, some will offer half-hearted support, and some will remain steadfast, proving their sincerity. This revelation is itself a form of mercy from Allah, because it allows you to recognize who genuinely loves, respects, and cares for you, and who does not. When a person experiences hardship, the reactions of others often become a mirror reflecting the depth of their commitment to you. Those who only show up during times of ease are exposed for what they truly are. Fair weather companions whose loyalty was never grounded in sincerity. Pain uncovers intentions because adversity leaves no room for pretense. It is easy to smile and offer words of encouragement when life is pleasant, but it requires effort, empathy, and sacrifice to remain present when circumstances are difficult. The ones who remain, the ones who offer genuine comfort, listen without judgment, and act without expectation, demonstrate the qualities of true care and love. Recognizing this allows a believer to direct gratitude appropriately, valuing those whose presence is genuine and trusting that Allah has placed them in your life intentionally. Pain also serves as a filter, separating those who are truly dependable from those who are not. It highlights the people who pray for you sincerely, who think of you even when you are not around, who send kind words and gestures without being asked. Their support may not always be grand, but its consistency is what counts. The believer begins to see that true care is not measured by extravagance, but by loyalty, empathy, and unwavering presence. This realization helps to cultivate discernment, which is an invaluable skill in human relationships. Through hardship, Allah teaches us not only who is genuine, but also how to cherish those who matter most. Moreover, experiencing pain can deepen your appreciation for the love and care of others. In moments of suffering, even the smallest acts of kindness, a phone call, a word of encouragement, a helping hand, gain profound significance. These moments serve as reminders that you are not alone, that Allah's mercy often manifests to the people around you. Recognizing the sincere efforts of others encourages gratitude, humility, and a sense of connection. Pain magnifies the value of support, making you more aware of the blessings in relationships that might have otherwise gone unnoticed during times of ease. Hardship also has the power to strengthen bonds that are genuine. When two people endure difficulty together, when a friend, family member, or spouse stands by you in your moments of struggle, the connection deepens. Shared adversity fosters empathy, mutual understanding, and resilience. The act of supporting someone in pain is itself a form of worship, if done with sincere intention. And it creates a spiritual bond that is stronger than one forged in comfort. Pain, therefore, is not only a test of who truly cares, but also a catalyst for forming stronger, more meaningful relationships. Furthermore, hardship encourages self-reflection on one's own capacity to care. Experiencing pain helps a believer recognize how they respond to the suffering of others. It challenges the heart to act with compassion, patience, and empathy. In seeing who truly cares for you, you are reminded of the importance of being someone who others can rely on during their difficult times. Your pain becomes a teacher, instilling a sense of responsibility, humility, and a desire to be a source of comfort and support for others. Through this reflection, you learn that relationships are not only about receiving care, but also about giving it selflessly, following the example of the Prophet and the teachings of Islam. Pain also has a spiritual dimension in revealing who truly cares. Often those who demonstrate genuine care do so not out of obligation, but out of sincere concern for your well-being in this world and the hereafter. Their support is rooted in faith, empathy, and love, and their presence often reminds the believer of Allah's mercy. Recognizing such people can strengthen your own faith. As you see how Allah provides help and support through others, it reinforces the understanding that care and compassion are manifestations of divine mercy, and that Allah's plan often unfolds through the actions of those who remain steadfast in times of difficulty. Finally, the clarity that pain provides in human relationships encourages reliance on Allah above all else. While the support of others is valuable and a blessing, the believer learns that ultimate care, protection, and guidance come from the Creator. Pain teaches you that people, no matter how sincere, are limited in their capacity to help. Allah, however, is limitless, and His care is absolute. By observing who truly stands by you and who does not, you are reminded to strengthen your connection with Allah, trust in His plan, and seek comfort in His presence. The awareness of divine care becomes more tangible when human support is tested, and the believer emerges with a heart more attuned to Allah, appreciative of genuine human relationships, and resilient in the face of adversity. In this way, pain serves as both a revelation and a lesson. It exposes true intentions, deepens appreciation for genuine support, strengthens bonds, cultivates empathy, and ultimately redirects the heart toward reliance on Allah. Every hardship carries within it the wisdom of divine guidance, teaching the believer to recognize the sincerity of those around them while nurturing their own capacity to care. In the end, pain is not merely suffering. It is a mirror, a teacher, and a blessing, revealing who truly cares and shaping the heart to value what is real and eternal. Every struggle is temporary, and understanding this truth is one of the most comforting and transformative realizations a believer can have. Life is a series of ups and downs, and no matter how heavy the burden feels at a given moment, it is never permanent. Pain, loss, fear, or disappointment may press upon the heart and mind, yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, has placed within every hardship the promise of relief. This promise is repeated throughout the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, reminding us that ease always follows difficulty. The believer who holds on to this awareness walks through challenges with resilience, hope, and patience, knowing that what they are enduring is not the final chapter, but a temporary phase, a test designed to purify, strengthen, and guide them toward something better. Understanding the temporary nature of struggle allows the heart to endure. When a person faces adversity, it is natural to feel overwhelmed, to feel as though the weight of the world is upon them. Yet the awareness that hardship is not permanent shifts the perspective from despair to patience. The believer begins to see that while the pain may be intense, it will not last forever. This perspective brings comfort and reduces the power of fear, anxiety, and hopelessness. The temporary nature of struggle teaches the heart to hold firm, to persevere, and to trust in Allah's plan, even when the outcome is not immediately visible. Patience, strengthened by faith in the transient nature of trials, becomes a powerful tool for navigating life's challenges. Every struggle carries with it a